Is anybody else watching C-SPAN at about 11:30 Eastern this morning? I was. And I was richly rewarded for doing so. Oh, yes. That's not a new member of Congress. This is not something we popped in Photoshop. This is Arthur the Aardvark, who you may know by his slogan, the world's most famous aardvark. A couple of things to note about this picture. First of all, I should just say that I love the bow tie as much as the next guy. I was even sort of friends with Tucker Carlson when he still wore the bow tie on TV. I love the bow tie. But a note to congressmen, if you are going to appear at a press conference alongside a cartoon aardvark, do not wear your bow tie to that press conference. You may find yourself getting packed up with the props at the end of the day. That is Congressman Earl Blumenauer right there, the good congressman from Oregon. This right here is Democratic Congressman Ed Markey of Massachusetts. As you can see, also standing alongside a much better view of Mr. Aardvark. You may notice that Mr. Markey is also holding a teeny tiny little version, of Big Bird, which is weird because his name is Big, and yet there he is, very small. Even smaller than that, the teeny tiny little Grover right there on the other side of the podium. Also, a little further to the other side of the screen there, getting cuddles from Congresswoman Betty McCollum of Minnesota. That's Elmo. Why does a scene like this, with the awkward juxtaposition of many members of Congress in suits holding characters from children's TV shows, why does this scene seem so familiar? Because this is what Democrats do every time Republicans take over the House. If this looks familiar to you, it is because you remember this from 1995. This is one of the all-time great clips from Congress ever on any subject ever.
Don't kill Big Bird. Don't kill Big Bird by voting for mean-spirited Republican budget cuts on public broadcasting. Don't kill Big Bird because millions of American children, including my own 3 children, have grown up on Big Bird and Sesame Street and Mr. Rogers and public broadcasting. Don't kill Big Bird because public broadcasting works. Public broadcasting is good for the American taxpayer and good for the American people.
Democratic Congressman Eliot Engel of New York with a little help from his friend. The reason Democrats and children's television characters keep turning up together at political events is not because Republicans have found killing Big Bird to be an actual solution to the nation's fiscal problems. It's because, come on, getting rid of the Corporation for Public Broadcasting is something that the Republican Party likes the idea of intrinsically. They do not want there to be public broadcasting. NPR, NO. Sesame Street, they hate it. They do not want it to exist. They think it is a secret plot to turn your child gay or something. Getting rid of it is a message priority for Republicans, not a fiscal priority.
If public television did not exist, we right now would be trying to invent it. Republicans have tilted the fiscal scales in favor of big oil at the expense of Big Bird. They don't want to cut out the $43 billion in tax breaks for the oil industry, but at the same time, they want to cut the budget for children's television programming in our country.
Republicans choose tax breaks for big oil over Big Bird. To be fair, there is some disagreement among Democrats on this big oil issue. President Obama wants to cut $46 billion in taxpayer subsidies for the oil industry over 10 years. House Democrats want to cut roughly that much over 5 years. House Republicans, on the other hand, they want to keep all $40 billion of subsidies for the oil industry. $40 billion taxpayer dollars to be paid to the oil industry. Come on, they're a needy cause. Ladies and gentlemen, I present to you the world's most profitable companies of the year 2008. Drum roll. Number 5, BP. Number 4, Chevron. Number 3, Shell. Number 2, Gazprom, Russian oil company. And number 1, ExxonMobil. These were the most profitable companies on earth in 2008. Do you notice anything similar about them? In 2009, the next year, oil companies had a hard year. 2009, Exxon only made $19 billion in profit that year. Gazprom actually eked ahead. Gazprom had $24 billion in profit in that one year. But you know what? The American people need to take care of these people. Cops and firefighters, I'm sorry. Exxon needs that taxpayer money. I mean, look at poor BP. Poor BP only made $16,000 million in profit in 2009, which sounds better than $16 billion somehow. Budget time is a fun time of year. It is fun to divine what you can about people's priorities based on what they want to cut and what they want to protect. You want to give taxpayer dollars to Exxon and not food inspectors or Sesame Street? Okay, good to know. But here's something that nobody's really talking about that I find legitimately radical about what Republicans say they want to do this year. Republicans say they're all concerned about the deficit, right? Deficit is not an abstract concept. It's a specific thing. It's the difference between the money the government puts out and the money the government takes in. How does the government take in money? There's an app for that. It's called taxes. I know, horrible word. But it is actually how the government takes in money. That's part of the deficit calculation. But Republicans have proposed crippling our ability to take in the money. Their spending plan cuts $593 million from tax collection. From keeping people from cheating on their taxes. They want to make it $600 million worth of enforcement easier to cheat on your taxes. This is not about what the tax rate should be. This is not about whether or not you should pay taxes on something or not. This is about whether or not if you do owe taxes, you really have to pay them. If you care about the deficit, don't you want to ensure that the money we get to pay for things that we're legally entitled to get, we actually get? Do we not all concede anymore that people who owe taxes should actually have to pay the taxes that they owe? Joining us now is New York Times columnist Gail Collins. Gail, it is good to see you. Thank you for being here.
Good to be here.
Is cheating on your taxes considered patriotic now, and I did not get the memo? I mean, $600 million out of tax enforcement. That's amazing.
Well, they don't like taxes, but also they don't like government rules. So anything, I think that the SEC gets whacked too in this budget. The enforcement and all the enforcement of the new consumer protection laws, anything that's a rule, they sort of, unless it's firefighters, they do seem to like firefighters.
But not cops. They are cutting the number of cops.
Cops got back some money today. So
good. After the initial whack.
Right.
Yeah.
So some, not murder, not fires, but other than that, they don't like rules. So
Why Mr. Bird?
Oh, poor Bird.
Why does the public broadcasting stuff always go? His feet are dirty. He's been actually walking around the studio, which is weird. But why does public broadcasting always get put first on the block?
Oh, because it's public and it's broadcasting, and they've always thought it was a liberal thing, and plus it's wrong, and it's public, and it's broadcasting. They've never liked it, and they always get rid of it, but it usually comes back as the good news.
But, because of that, it did really look like 1995 today. I mean, Elliot Engel still has the same mustache. His hair's a little different.
Best speech Elliot Engel has ever made in his life.
It was incredible. Yeah. But there was one silver lining on spending today in Washington. The F-35 alternate engine, which, full disclosure, is made in part by GE, finally got unfunded in the House today, even though the House Republican leadership said that they wanted that engine even if the military didn't. How significant is that?
It's nice. I mean, right now it really is hard to have earmarks, and it really is difficult to get those little special things and to plead for them. Mm-hmm. I'd be interested to see what happens when, say, the agriculture subsidies get really argued about a little bit more. Stuff like that's bigger and larger. I think it's nice. It's sort of pathetic to me that Barack Obama's efforts to cut back on the defense industry is completely down to those two engines, as far as I can tell. There was one jet plane about 2 years ago that they finally got rid of that nobody wanted for 100 years, and now it's the double engines for the one plane that's going to be gone. That's it, though. That's sort of the big cheese there.
And the engine thing has been hard fought. I mean,
it took forever, my Lord in heaven. A plane with two engines, and it took them forever to get that done.
Is there any chance of an F-35 style spending revolt on the $40 billion that we pay the most profitable industry on Earth? Is there any chance of a spending revolt on the oil subsidies?
Well, it would be nice to think so.
You don't think so?
I don't think so at all.
Nobody ever accuses me of being too optimistic. You really think it can't happen?
Well, wow, that would be so nice, Rachel. What a lovely thought. It never even occurred to me that might happen. I mean, they want to have less taxes, not more taxes. So anything that gets a subsidy in taxes is good to the Republicans because it's less taxes. Plus, it's the oil industry.
It is. I mean, to be clear, though, this is the most profitable industry the Earth has ever known. There have never been quarterly profits as high in recorded human history as there are for ExxonMobil.
But you're forgetting about the little bitty teeny weeny companies that only make, $1 quadrillion, who we're always having to do special things for. They need help. They need friends like the bird. That they're all the same. They're needy. They work hard. They drill things. They extract.
The mom and pop companies. Do we, when you look at what's happening right now with the two parties stating their visions in terms of what we ought to spend money on, is there anything, is it just 1995 all over again? Is there anything that is substantive and new and important in terms of what Republicans are putting on the chopping block?
They're pushing, no, not right now. I don't think. They're pushing harder on the entitlements, I think, and there's actually going to be a discussion of entitlements somewhere along the line, which we didn't ever really have before. We had one with Social Security, but this will be the first big kind of Medicare discussion if we really have one.
Yeah.
But the Republicans ruined the Medicare discussion during the health care debate when they kept getting up saying, you're trying to cut back on Medicare, you're ruining grandmother, you're killing her, you're destroying us all. And they poisoned the well on the one thing that they now say is the critical thing that we have to talk about above all things.
Yeah, but see, they just drill new wells. They just drill new wells. That's why the backyard is totally unsafe for toddlers.
And that's why Grandma is still with us.
That's exactly right. New York Times columnist Gail Collins, with whom I very much enjoyed discussing these matters. Thank you for being here.
Thanks. Yep.
An update. I will admit a rather vile update on why part of our show is decamping to Kansas next week. Please stay tuned. That's next.